The great hall smells like cedar and dominance. Zaylin Cross stands 3 feet from the stone wall, exactly where Omegas belong during pack meetings. Not close enough to seem presumptuous, not far enough to appear disrespectful. The perfect distance for invisibility. Alpha King Kairo Blackthorn's voice rolls across the room, smooth as river stones. Strength protects. Hierarchy preserves. This is how we survive. Heads nod. No one questions. Zaylin's fingers curl against her palms. She watches the betas shift closer to the center, their postures open, confident. They're allowed to take up space. She learned years ago that her space ends where her body does. Zaylin. Her name cuts through the assembly like a blade through silk. Every head turns. Caden's gaze finds her against the wall. His expression carries no malice, no anger. Just calm expectation. Step forward. Her legs obey before her mind catches up. The walk to the center feels like crossing a frozen lake, each step uncertain, the ice too thin to trust. The pack has suffered a loss, Kairo says. His voice softens just enough to sound compassionate. Mira's death leaves our young without a mother. Zaylin's throat tightens. Mira had been kind, quiet, the only wolf who ever asked Zaylin how she was and waited for an answer. You will care for the twins, Kairo continues. Not a question. Your nature makes you suited for this. Nurturing comes easily to Omegas. The room murmurs approval. Zaylin's chest constricts. Something about the phrasing, your nature, feels like a door closing, but everyone's watching, and Caiden's tone is gentle, and the twins need someone. It's an honor, someone whispers behind her. She thinks, lucky, I'm lucky. She says, of course, Alpha. Caiden's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Good, you'll move into the nursery wing tonight. I'll oversee the transition personally. Oversee. The word lands soft but heavy. As the meeting disperses, Zaylin remains rooted. Pack members pass without meeting her gaze. Not hostile, just indifferent. She's furniture now. Functional. Expected to perform without complaint. Later, in the small room she's occupied for 3 years, Zaylin folds her 2 dresses, her spare boots, the quilt her grandmother made. Everything fits in one bag. She pauses at the mirror. Her reflection looks tired. When did that happen? You're lucky, she tells herself. A roof, a purpose. It could be worse. But her hands shake as she zips the bag closed. The nursery wing smells like lavender and milk. 2 cribs occupy the far wall, and between them, a rocking chair worn smooth by use. Mira's scent still clings to the cushions. Zaylin sets her bag down. The room feels too large and too small at once. You'll sleep here. She startles. Kairo stands in the doorway, filling it completely. He moves into the room without invitation, inspecting the space as if checking for flaws. The twins wake twice a night, he says. You'll need to be alert. I can't have exhaustion affecting your judgment. Zaylin nods. Her voice feels stuck. Kairo steps closer. This matters, Zaylin. They're the future of this pack. Do you understand the responsibility? Yes, Alpha. Good. He touches her shoulder, brief, impersonal. I know you won't disappoint me. The words settle like stones in her stomach. After he leaves, Zaylin sits in the rocking chair. The wood creaks beneath her weight. Through the window, the moon hangs low and swollen. Her grandmother's voice echoes from memory. Baby girl, gratitude is beautiful, but it shouldn't cost you your voice. Zaylin had been 8 then, too young to understand. Now she's 23 and she still doesn't let herself. She thinks, I have a roof. I have a purpose. She doesn't think, I have a choice. Because that's the lie that keeps her safe. The belief that endurance equals strength, that silence equals wisdom, that shrinking equals survival. The twins whimper from their cribs. Zaylin rises, her body already learning to respond before her needs even register. It's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long life. Unless she learns that some lies, no matter how safe they feel, slowly erase the person telling them. The twins cry at 2-hour intervals like clockwork. Zaylin's eyes burn from lack of sleep, but she lifts Nayari from the crib anyway, swaying in the rhythm she's learned means comfort. The baby girl's fist clutches Zaylin's shirt, tiny and trusting. "Shh, sweet thing, I've got you." Kaisen wails louder, jealous of his sister's attention. Zaylin shifts Nayari to one hip and reaches for him with her free arm. The weight of both babies makes her shoulder ache, but she doesn't put them down. They need her. That matters, doesn't it? The door opens without warning. Caden enters, his presence filling the dim room like smoke. They're still crying. Zaylin's stomach twists. They're fed and changed. Sometimes they just need, "You're holding them wrong." He crosses to her in 3 strides, adjusting Kaisen's position against her chest. His hands are firm, corrective. Like this. "You have to support the head better." Heat floods Zaylin's face. "I thought I was..." "You thought wrong." His tone stays even, reasonable. "That's why I'm here, to help you learn." He steps back, watching her with an expression she can't read. Not angry, concerned maybe, like a teacher with a slow student. "What did you feed them tonight?" he asks. "The formula you approved, 2 ounces each, like you said." "Temperature?" "Body warm. I tested it on my wrist." "And you're certain?" Because Kaisen seems uncomfortable. Doubt creeps in like cold water. Did she check the temperature? She remembers testing it, but maybe she rushed. Maybe she made a mistake. I'm certain," she says, but her voice wavers. Caden's expression softens into something almost kind. "Zaylin, if you're not sure, just say so. There's no shame in admitting when you need guidance." The words sound supportive. They feel like quicksand. "You're right," she hears herself say. "I should have double-checked." "That's better." He touches Kaisen's head, gentle. "These mistakes are natural. You're learning, but we can't afford carelessness, can we?" "No, Alpha." After he leaves, Zaylin sits in the rocking chair, both twins finally sleeping against her chest. The room settles into silence except for their breathing. She did check the temperature. She knows she did. So why did she apologize? The days blur together, feeding, changing, soothing, sleeping in 20-minute fragments. Caden appears at unpredictable times, during feedings, naps, the brief moments Zaylin tries to eat, always with questions, always with corrections. "You're bathing them too often. Their skin will dry out." "You're not bathing them enough. I can smell them from the hallway." "Why are you using that blanket? I told you the blue one is better." "Did I say the blue one? I meant the green. You should have asked for clarification." Zaylin stops trusting her memory. She starts writing everything down, feeding times, diaper changes, which blanket, what temperature. But her notes contradict what Caden remembers, and his certainty always outweighs her records. "You wrote it down wrong," he explains patiently. "Your exhaustion is affecting your clarity." She believes him. What else can she do? 3 weeks in. Elder Malachi Rook visits the nursery. He's 70-something, with silver threading through his dark hair and eyes that miss nothing. "How are you managing, child?" Zaylin forces a smile. "Fine. It's an honor." Malachi studies her face too long. "When did you last eat a full meal?" She can't remember. "This morning." "When did you last sleep more than an hour straight?" "I sleep when they sleep." "That wasn't my question." Zaylin's hands twist the burp cloth in her lap. "The twins need consistency. Alpha Caden says..." "Alpha Caden isn't the one awake at 3 a.m. Malachi's voice stays gentle, but something in it sharpens. "What do you need, Zaylin?" The question hits like a slap. No one asks her that, ever. Her throat closes. "I need to do better." Malachi's expression shifts, not disappointment, but something sadder. Recognition, maybe. "That's not what I asked." But Zaylin doesn't know how to answer a question she's spent years unlearning how to ask herself. After Malachi leaves, she stands at the window, watching the pack grounds below. Wolves move freely, laughing, choosing their own paths. She hasn't left the nursery wing in 21 days. Caden said it was temporary, just until she established a routine, but routines don't end. They just become cages you stop noticing. Nyari coos from her crib, and Zaylin turns back to the room that's become her entire world. Small, manageable, safe. She tells herself she's lucky. Her body knows it's lying. Zaylin hums while changing Nyari's diaper. No particular melody, just sound for sound's sake. The baby girl stops fussing instantly. Her gray eyes fix on Zaylin's face, curious and calm. "You like that, don't you?" Zaylin's voice softens. "Music makes the world less scary." Kyson babbles from the playmat, reaching for Zaylin even though she's 3 feet away. She finishes with Nyari and scoops him up, settling both twins against her chest. They melt into her. No resistance, no tension, just trust. Something in Zaylin's chest shifts, not breaking, but waking. Her wolf stirs beneath her skin, quiet but present. It's been years since she felt this, the recognition of something true and ancient. Pack, not the hierarchy kind, the soul kind. "You're bonding too closely." Zaylin's head snaps up. Caden stands in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "They're comfortable with me," she says carefully. "Isn't that good?" He enters the room, his gaze moving from the twins to her face. Comfortable is fine. Dependent is dangerous. They're babies. Dependency is normal. For now. Caden crouches beside the playmat, picking up one of Kyson's toys. But they're future alphas. They need to learn strength, not attachment. Zaylin's arms tighten around the twins reflexively. They're 4 months old. Which is exactly when patterns form. His voice stays level, educational. "You coddle them, Zaylin. I've seen you rush to them the second they whimper. That teaches weakness." Heat crawls up her neck. "It teaches them they're safe." The words come out before she can stop them. The room goes still. Caden's eyes narrow, not in anger, but something colder. Assessment. "They need discipline," he says slowly. "Not indulgence. They need care." Zaylin's voice shakes, but she doesn't look away. There's a difference. For 3 heartbeats, neither of them moves. Then Caden stands, brushing invisible dust from his pants. "You're tired. Exhaustion distorts judgment. We'll revisit this when you've rested." He leaves without another word. Zaylin's hands tremble. The twins squirm against her, sensing the shift in her energy. She just contradicted an alpha. She just stated a boundary. And the ceiling didn't collapse. That night, after the twins finally sleep, Malachi appears in the nursery doorway with a mug of tea. "Thought you could use this." Zaylin accepts it, grateful. The warmth seeps into her palms. Malachi settles into the second chair, silent for a long moment. Then, "How did it feel?" "How did what feel?" "Saying what you meant." Zaylin's throat tightens. Terrifying. "Good." Malachi's smile is small but genuine. "Fear means you're awake." "Awake to what?" "To the difference between what you've been taught and what you know." He gestures toward the cribs. "Those babies don't respond to Caden's voice the way the pack does. Have you noticed?" She has. When Caden speaks, the twins fuss. When she speaks, they settle. "They're just used to me," Zaylin says. "Or they recognize safety when they feel it." Malachi leans forward. "Your instincts aren't rebellion, child. They're wisdom." The words settle into Zaylin's bones like truth she's been starving for. "But everyone says what they've been taught to say." Malachi's voice gentles. "That doesn't make it right." After he leaves, Zaylin sits in the darkness, listening to the twins breathe. Her whole life she's been taught that doubt means weakness. That questions mean disrespect. That feeling means failing. But what if that teaching was wrong? What if the tightness in her chest when Caden monitors her choices isn't confusion, but clarity? What if the exhaustion isn't from caring for the twins, but from constantly second-guessing herself? What if safe love doesn't require constant correction? Nyari whimpers in her sleep. Zaylin rises automatically, placing a gentle hand on the baby's chest. The whimpering stops. Such a small thing. Touch. Presence. But it works. And Caden would call it coddling. Zaylin returns to her chair, something hardening in her chest. Not anger, not rebellion, determination. She doesn't know what comes next. She doesn't know if she's brave enough to keep speaking up, but she knows this. The twins deserve someone who trusts their own judgment. And maybe, terrifying as it is, so does she. The Blood Moon Gathering happens once a year, when all regional packs convene to settle disputes and honor treaties. Zaylin wasn't supposed to attend, Omegas rarely do, but Caden insisted she bring the twins. They need to be seen, he said. It establishes legitimacy. Now she stands at the edge of the Great Hall, twins secured in a double sling against her chest, while hundreds of wolves fill the space with noise and power. Alpha King Kairo sits at the head table, commanding the room with his presence alone. Zaylin keeps her eyes down, her posture small. Then Davina Pierce stands. She's Alpha of the Northridge Pack, tall, dark-skinned, with silver streaks in her locks, and a voice that cuts through chaos. "I call challenge," Davina announces. The room goes silent. Caden's expression doesn't change. "On what grounds?" "Manipulation of the mate bond." Davina's gaze locks on him. "Specifically the bond between you and Mira Blackthorn." Gasps ripple through the hall. Zaylin's heart slams against her ribs. Caden stands slowly. "That's a serious accusation." "With serious evidence." Davina nods to her second, who produces a leather-bound journal. Mira kept records, detailed ones, about how her autonomy eroded, how her choices stopped feeling like choices, how you convinced her she was fragile, forgetful, inadequate. Zaylin's vision tunnels. "You're tired. Exhaustion distorts judgment. You wrote it down wrong. If you were stronger, you wouldn't feel this way." "Mira was unwell," Caden says smoothly. "Pregnancy affects memory, clarity. I helped her navigate that." "You isolated her," Davina counters. "You monitored every decision. You questioned her reality until she stopped trusting herself." The words hit Zaylin like physical blows, every single one. Her hands tighten on the twins. They're both awake now, sensing her distress. Caden's voice remains calm, measured. Grief makes people see patterns that don't exist. Mira's death was tragic but natural. This is gaslighting, Davina interrupts. The word exists for a reason. The hall erupts in argument. Some wolves defend Caden, others demand investigation. Zaylin slips out through a side door, her breath coming in short gasps. The hallway is empty and cold. She leans against the stone wall, the twins pressed against her heart. Gaslighting. A name, an actual name for the thing that's been happening. Not confusion, not weakness, not her imagination, manipulation. Her legs won't hold her. She slides down the wall until she's sitting, the twins squirming in her lap. Every interaction with Caden plays through her mind in new context. You're holding them wrong, undermining her competence. Did I say the blue one? I meant the green. Rewriting reality. Your exhaustion is affecting your clarity. Blaming her perception. Don't confuse your role. Defining her worth by function, pattern, after pattern, after pattern. And she believed him, every time, because he was calm, reasonable, never cruel. But cruelty isn't always loud. Footsteps approach. Zaylin looks up to find Malachi. "You heard," he says quietly. She nods, unable to speak. Malachi sits beside her on the cold floor, unbothered by the lack of dignity. "What are you feeling?" "Stupid." Her voice cracks. "How did I not see it?" "Because you were taught not to." Malachi's hand rests on her shoulder, grounding, not controlling. "You were taught that questioning authority means disrespect, that feeling uncomfortable means personal failure. That's not accident, child, that's design." Zaylin's eyes burn. "He did the same thing to Mira." "Yes. And I'm doing the same thing, Letting him. Were. Malachi corrects gently. Past tense. What? You spoke about a boundary 3 days ago. You felt the fear and spoke anyway. His voice strengthens. That's not letting it happen. That's waking up. Zaylin looks down at the twins. Nyari's tiny hand wraps around her finger. Kaizen's eyes, Mira's eyes, watch her with absolute trust. What do I do? She whispers. What does your instinct say? And there it is. The question no one's asked her in years. Her instinct says, leave. Her conditioning says, you owe him everything. You'll fail alone. This is safety. But safety that erases you isn't safety. It's just a softer cage. Zaylin stands, cradling the twins close. Her legs shake, but they hold. I need to talk to him, she says. Malachi rises too. Do you want company? She almost says yes, but this is hers to do. No, but thank you. He nods, respect clear in his expression. You're stronger than you've been taught to believe. Zaylin doesn't feel strong, she feels terrified. But she walks toward Caden's private study anyway, each step a choice, because now she has words for what's been happening, and words give power back. Caden's study smells like leather and cedar smoke. He sits behind his desk, reviewing documents as if the Blood Moon gathering didn't just fracture his reputation. When Zaylin enters, he doesn't look up. I wondered when you'd come. Her hands tighten on the sling holding the twins. Did you do it? You'll need to be more specific. Mira? Zaylin's voice is quiet but steady. Did you manipulate her the way Davina said? Now he looks up. His expression shows no guilt, no shame, just mild irritation at the inconvenience. I provided structure, he says evenly. Mira was emotional, impulsive. She needed guidance. Did she ask for it? She didn't know she needed it. Caden stands, moving around the desk. That's what leadership is, Zaylin, seeing what people need before they do. Her stomach turns. That's not leadership. That's control. His eyes narrow. You've been talking to Malachi. I've been paying attention. To what? Conspiracy theories from a grieving pack? Caden's tone sharpens, just slightly. Davina is bitter. She's always questioned traditional structures. This is politics, not truth. You didn't deny it. Silence. Caden moves closer. Not threatening, but deliberate. What exactly are you accusing me of? Zaylin's heart hammers, but she holds her ground. The same thing you did to Mira. The same thing you've been doing to me. Which is? Making me doubt myself, questioning my memory, isolating me. Her voice shakes, but the words come. Telling me it's for my own good when it's really for your control. Caden's expression shifts, not to anger, but to something colder. Calculation. You're exhausted, he says. His voice dropping into that familiar, reasonable tone. Emotional. The gathering stirred up difficult feelings. That's understandable. Don't. The word comes out sharp. Don't tell me what I'm feeling. I'm not telling you what you're feeling. I'm observing behavior. He gestures toward the twins. You're holding them too tightly. Your breathing is erratic. These are signs of stress affecting judgment. And there it is. The pattern Davina named. Observation becomes diagnosis. Diagnosis becomes dismissal. But now Zaylin sees it. My judgment is fine, she says. I'm choosing to leave. The room temperature seems to drop. Caden goes very still. Leave. The nursery. The pack. You. Zaylin shifts the twins higher on her chest, protective. I'm done. You have no resources. No connections outside this pack. His voice stays calm. But something predatory enters his gaze. Where exactly do you think you'll go? I don't know. You don't know, he repeats, like she's proving his point. So you'll stumble into the world with no plan, no support, and 2 infants who depend on you. That's not courage, Zaylin. That's recklessness. Maybe. Her throat is tight, but her voice doesn't break. But it's my recklessness. Caden takes another step forward. For the first time, his composure cracks. You owe this pack everything. I gave you purpose when you had none, protection when you were vulnerable. You'd be nothing without. Then I'll be nothing as myself." The words stop him cold. Zaylin watches something shift in his expression. Not remorse, not understanding, just the recognition that his tools aren't working anymore. "The twins stay," he says flatly. "No. They're my children." "Then why do they cry when you hold them?" Zaylin's voice stays level, factual. "Why do they settle when I speak and fuss when you command? They're your blood, Caden, but they're not yours." His jaw clenches. "You're making a mistake." "I'm making a choice." She turns toward the door. Her legs feel like water, but they move. "You'll fail," Caden calls after her. Not loud, not emotional, just certain. Zaylin pauses in the doorway. "Probably." She doesn't look back. The pack grounds are quiet at this hour. Zaylin crosses to the nursery wing for the last time, packing only essentials, diapers, formula, the blanket Mira made. Her own belongings fit in the same small bag she arrived with. She's at the main gate when Caden appears, flanked by 2 betas. His expression is rigid now, authority reasserted. "Final chance," he says. "Stay. Raise the twins properly. I'll forget this happened." Zaylin adjusts the sling, making sure both babies are secure. They're awake now, watching the exchange with wide eyes. She opens her mouth to refuse. That's when Nyari moves. The baby girl's small arm extends, pointing directly at Zaylin. "Mom?" The world stops. Kaisen mirrors his sister, his chubby finger aimed at Zaylin's face. "Mom?" Their first words. Not to their father, not to the pack, to her. Zaylin's eyes burn. Her chest feels too full and too broken at once. Caden's face drains of color. The betas exchange uncertain glances. Because dominance can be commanded, obedience can be enforced, but love, real, chosen love, can't be controlled. "They know," Zaylin whispers. "They've always known." Caden's authority cracks like ice under weight. "They're babies, they don't understand." "They understand safety." Zaylin meets his gaze one last time. "Something you never gave Mira. Or me." She walks through the gate. The twins burrow into her chest, content, and behind her, the Alpha King stands powerless, because the only authority that matters is the kind freely given, and she just took hers back. 6 months later, Zaylin wakes to sunlight streaming through muslin curtains. The cottage is small, 2 rooms, a wood stove, a garden plot she's still learning to tend, but it's hers, every corner, every choice. Nyari babbles from the cradle Malachi helped her build. Kaisen responds with his own stream of nonsense syllables, and the 2 of them conduct an entire conversation in a language only they understand. Zaylin smiles, rising to scoop them both up. They're heavier now, sturdier. Nyari has 2 teeth. Kaisen can almost sit up unsupported. She's watched every milestone, chosen every moment. Outside, voices drift through the window. The small pack that's formed around her, not bound by hierarchy but by choice, gathers for the morning meal. There's Malachi, who left Moonridge the same night she did. Davina visits monthly, bringing supplies and teaching Zaylin about pack law. 3 other wolves, each with their own reasons for seeking something different, have built homes nearby. It's not grand, it's not powerful, but it's real. Zaylin carries the twins outside. The morning air smells like pine and bread from Kiana's oven. The young woman waves, her smile genuine. "Coffee's ready when you are." "Thank you." The words come easy now, gratitude without diminishment. Malachi approaches, adjusting the firewood stack near the communal pit. The twins are growing fast. Too fast. Zaylin settles on the bench, the babies exploring the grass at her feet. That's the nature of it. Malachi's voice carries weight beyond the words. Growth happens whether we're ready or not. Zaylin watches Nyari grab a handful of clover, her tiny fist determined. I keep waiting for it to feel easier. Easier? Malachi sits beside her. Or just less frightening? She considers this. Both, I think. Fear doesn't disappear, child. You just get better at walking with it. He gestures toward the small cluster of homes. Look what you've built while terrified. Zaylin follows his gaze. Kiana hangs laundry, singing softly. Simone practices defensive stances with Davina's second, her movements gaining confidence. Marcus repairs the fence line, his steady hands patient. Each person here chose something different. Each person risked the familiar for the unknown. How do I make sure I don't repeat Caden's mistakes? The question escapes before Zaylin can stop it. What if I build something that looks like freedom, but feels like control? Malachi turns to face her fully. Do you ask the others what they need? Yes. Do you adjust when they tell you? I try. Do you make space for disagreement without punishment? Zaylin nods slowly. Then you're already different. Malachi's hand rests briefly on her shoulder. True alphas don't rule through fear, they lead through trust. And trust is built one consistent action at a time. Kaisen toddles toward Zaylin, arms outstretched. She lifts him automatically, and he burrows into her neck. Mum, he says clearly. The word he now uses a dozen times a day. Nyari echoes him, demanding equal attention. Mum, Mum. Zaylin gathers both twins close, breathing in their baby soap scent. She doesn't have all the answers. She makes mistakes daily, too cautious in some moments, too permissive in others. Learning to lead without dominating feels like walking a tightrope, but she's learning. And learning means she hasn't calcified into certainty the way Caden did. Later, while the twins nap in the afternoon shade, a runner arrives from Moonridge. Zaylin's stomach tightens. She hasn't had contact with her former pack since leaving. The runner, a young beta named Justice, approaches with careful deference. Message from Alpha King Blackthorn. Zaylin accepts the sealed letter, her hands steady despite the anxiety climbing her spine. Justice shifts his weight. He's different since you left, more volatile. That's not my responsibility. The words come firm but not harsh. I know. Justice meets her eyes briefly. But there are others, Omegas like you were. They're asking questions now, noticing patterns. Zaylin's chest tightens. What kind of questions? The kind that make Caden uncomfortable. Justice glances toward the cottage. The twins saying your name changed something? Wolves saw. They're talking. After he leaves, Zaylin opens the letter. The twins are my heirs. Their place is here. Name your terms for their return. No greeting, no acknowledgement of manipulation or harm. Just demand disguised as negotiation. Zaylin crumples the paper, her jaw set. She doesn't owe Caden access. She doesn't owe him compromise. But those other Omegas, the ones asking questions, they deserve to know that leaving is possible. That night, while the pack shares a meal around the fire, Zaylin stands. Her voice doesn't shake. I received a message from Moonridge today. The conversation quiets. Caden wants the twins back. He's framing it as negotiation, but it's the same pattern. Control disguised as reason. She looks around the circle. I'm not going back. The twins aren't going back. But I want you all to know, if staying here ever feels like obligation instead of choice, the door is always open. Simone speaks first. You mean that? I do. Zaylin sits back down. I didn't escape one cage to build another. This only works if we're all choosing it. Kiana's voice is quiet but steady. What if we want to help the Omegas still at Moonridge? The question hangs in the air. Davina leans forward, her silver locks catching firelight. That's dangerous territory. Caden won't take kindly to interference. No, Zaylin agrees, but silence didn't protect Mira, it didn't protect me, and it won't protect them. Malachi's eyes gleam with something between pride and concern. What are you proposing? Zaylin doesn't have a plan yet, just conviction. I'm proposing we stop being quiet about what happened. We stop pretending manipulation is normal just because it's calm. Her hands rest on her knees, grounded. We don't storm Moonridge. We don't force anyone. We just tell the truth and let people choose for themselves. Marcus nods slowly. Truth is a powerful weapon. It's not a weapon, Zaylin corrects gently. It's a mirror. It shows people what's already there. The fire crackles. The twins sleep peacefully in the cottage behind them, and for the first time since leaving, Zaylin feels something beyond survival. Purpose. Not the kind assigned to her, not the kind that required her erasure, the kind she chose, the kind that might help others choose too, because children and wounded souls recognize safe love. And maybe it's time more wolves learned what that actually looks like. Word spreads without Zaylin intending it to. Travelers pass through their settlement, curious about the pack with no alpha hierarchy. They share meals, ask questions, leave with stories. Within a month, 3 Omegas arrive from different territories, asking for sanctuary. Zaylin meets each one in the common area, never alone, always transparent. The first is Tamara, barely 19, with bruises hidden under long sleeves. "I heard you left an Alpha King," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't think that was allowed." Zaylin's chest aches. It's not about permission, it's about choice. "My Alpha says I'm too emotional to make good choices." The familiar phrase hits like a fist. Zaylin exchanges glances with Simone, who nods understanding. "May I ask you something?" Zaylin keeps her tone gentle. "When you make choices without him, how do they turn out?" Tamara blinks. I don't know. He doesn't let me make choices." "That's not protection," Simone says quietly. "That's control." Tamara's eyes fill. "But he's never hit me. He's calm. Everyone says I'm lucky." Zaylin recognizes every word. She heard them in her own voice 6 months ago. "Harm doesn't require fists," she says. "Sometimes it's just the slow erosion of believing you matter." Tamara stays 3 days, watching how the settlement functions, how decisions are made collectively, how disagreements are handled without dominance or submission. On the 3rd night she asks, "Can I stay?" "Do you want to?" Zaylin asks. "Yes, but my Alpha will come looking." "Let him." Davina's voice carries from across the fire. "We don't return people against their will." Tamara's shoulders drop, tension releasing. "I've never had someone say that before." The second Omega is older. Rochelle, 40-something, with graying locks and eyes that have seen too much. "I'm not running," she says immediately. "My mate died 2 years ago. I stayed because I didn't know there were other options." "And now?" Malachi asks. "Now I'm curious." Rochelle surveys the settlement with an evaluator's eye. "You're building something different. I want to understand it before I commit." Zaylin appreciates the honesty. "What do you need to know?" "How you handle conflict, how you make decisions when people disagree, how you protect the vulnerable without controlling them." Fair questions. Hard questions. Over the next week, Rochelle observes everything. She watches Zaylin mediate a dispute between Marcus and Kiana about resource allocation. She sees Simone challenge one of Malachi's suggestions and the elder actually change his mind. She notices how the twins fuss when tired, and Zaylin doesn't apologize for their needs. "You don't have it all figured out," Rochelle says finally. "No," Zaylin admits. "We don't." "Good." Rochelle's smile is small but genuine. "Certainty is dangerous. I'll stay." The 3rd Omega doesn't stay. His name is Justice, the same Beta who delivered Caden's letter. He arrives at dusk, agitated. "I'm not Omega," he clarifies immediately. "But I need to tell you something." Zaylin gestures to the bench. "Sit." Justice does, his hands twisting together. "Caden knows about the Omegas leaving. He's blaming you, saying you're destabilizing the region, poisoning wolves against their alphas." "I'm not doing anything," Zaylin says evenly. "People are making their own choices." "Try telling him that." Justice's voice drops. "He's planning something, I don't know what. But he's been meeting with other traditionalist alphas. They're talking about making an example." Zaylin's blood chills. An example of what? I don't know. Justice meets her eyes. But I owed you a warning. You showed me that leadership doesn't require cruelty. That's worth risking his anger. After he leaves, the settlement gathers. We need defenses, Marcus says immediately. We need information, Davina counters. Defenses mean nothing if we don't know what's coming. We need to stay calm, Malachi adds. Panic serves Caden's narrative that we're unstable. Zaylin listens to each voice, her mind racing. The twins sleep in the cottage behind them, unaware of the threat gathering. She didn't leave Caden to build a target. She left to build a life. But sometimes life requires protection. We do all three, she says finally. Marcus, work with anyone who wants to learn defensive skills, but only defensive. Davina, use your network to gather intelligence. Malachi, help me figure out how to communicate what we're actually doing here. Which is? Simone asks. Zaylin looks around the fire at the faces watching her, hopeful, frightened, determined. Existing, she says simply. We're just existing as ourselves. That shouldn't be revolutionary. But it is, Rochelle says softly, to people who profit from our silence. The fire crackles. Somewhere in the forest an owl calls. Zaylin stands, her decision made. Then we don't go silent. We don't hide. We don't apologize for choosing ourselves. Even if it costs us? Tamara's voice shakes. Especially then. Zaylin's voice strengthens. Because the cost of staying silent already took Mira. It almost took me. How many more before we say enough? The settlement goes quiet. Then Simone stands. I'm with you. Marcus rises. And me. One by one. The others stand. Not out of obligation, not out of fear, out of choice. And that voluntary solidarity is something Caden will never understand, because power taken is fragile, but power given? That's unbreakable. The first attack isn't physical, it's a formal complaint filed with the regional council, accusing Zaylin's settlement of harboring runaways and destabilizing established pacts. Davina brings the summons personally, her expression grim. They're calling a tribunal, she says. 3 weeks. You'll have to answer the charges publicly. Zaylin's stomach drops. What charges exactly? Interference with pack bonds, encouraging Omega rebellion, endangering minors by removing them from their rightful alpha. Davina's jaw tightens. It's bureaucratic manipulation. Caden can't force you back directly, so he's using the council. Will they rule in his favor? Simone asks. Depends on who's presiding. Davina spreads the documents on the table. The council has 7 members. 3 are traditionalists who see Omega autonomy as dangerous. 2 are progressive but cautious. 2 are wildcards. Malachi studies the papers with experienced eyes. They're not actually concerned about the twins. This is about precedent. If you succeed, other Omegas will follow. They already are, Rochelle points out. 5 more arrived this week. The settlement has grown to 23 wolves now. What started as refuge has become something else. Movement. Zaylin looks at the summons, her hands steady despite the fear. What happens if I don't go? Default judgment, Davina says. They'll rule you unfit, grant Caden custody, and potentially outlaw your settlement. And if I go? You argue your case, show them what you've built, demonstrate that Omegas choosing their own path isn't chaos, it's evolution. Tamara's voice is small. What if they don't listen? Then we know where we stand, Zaylin says quietly, and we plan accordingly. The next 3 weeks are a study in controlled chaos. Davina helps Zaylin prepare her testimony, drilling her on questions the council might ask. Why did you leave Moonridge? Zaylin practices her answer. Because staying required erasing myself. That sounds emotional, not rational. Emotion is information. Ignoring it is irrational. Davina nods approval. Better. Don't let them reframe self-preservation as hysteria. Marcus builds a case file documenting every Omega who arrived, where they came from, what they fled, how they're thriving now. The stories are eerily similar: calm control, questioned reality, isolation disguised as protection, patterns. Rochelle organizes the settlement's governance structure into formal documentation. If they claim you're chaotic, we show them order, just not their order. Even the twins contribute in their way. Nyari and Kaisen are walking now, babbling constantly, learning new words daily. When Caden's name is mentioned, both twins frown. When Zaylin says her own name, they smile and echo it. That's going to be powerful testimony, Malachi observes. Children don't lie about who makes them feel safe. The night before the tribunal, Zaylin sits alone on her porch steps. The settlement is quiet. Everyone's asleep except Davina, who keeps watch by the fire. Zaylin's mind won't stop racing. She's practiced her testimony 100 times, but doubt still creeps in. What if she fails? What if the council sides with Caden? What if leaving him wasn't brave, just reckless? Footsteps approach. Rochelle settles beside her, 2 mugs of tea in hand. "Can't sleep either?" the older woman asks. "Too many thoughts?" Rochelle hands her a mug. "Want to share them?" Zaylin wraps her hands around the warmth. "What if I'm wrong? What if I took the twins from a stable home because of my own issues? Do you believe that?" "No. But Caden will make it sound believable." Rochelle sips her tea, considering. "I've been where you are. Different circumstances, but the same doubt. My mate was kind. He provided well. Everyone thought I was lucky. But I was lonely in a full house, silent in every conversation. I loved him. And I still disappeared." Rochelle's voice carries old grief. "When he died, I felt guilty for feeling relieved." Zaylin turns to face her. "That's not wrong. I know that now, but it took me 2 years to stop apologizing for surviving." Rochelle meets her gaze. "You're not wrong, Zaylin. You're just scared of being called wrong by people who benefit from your silence." The words settle into Zaylin's chest like truth. She's not afraid of being wrong. She's afraid of powerful people saying she is. There's a difference. "Thank you," Zaylin says quietly. Rochelle stands, stretching. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow you show them what choosing yourself looks like." Zaylin returns to the cottage. The twins sleep in their shared crib, tangled together like puppies. She brushes Nyari's curls back gently, touches Kaisen's small hand. They chose her. She chose them, and no tribunal can make that wrong. 7 wolves sit at an elevated table, their expressions ranging from curious to hostile. The gallery holds maybe 50 observers, other alphas, betas, a handful of omegas who watch with careful faces. Caden sits in the front row, flanked by his advisors. He looks calm, composed, every inch the wronged leader. Zaylin enters with Davina at her side and Malachi carrying the twins. She wears simple clothes, no attempt to appear submissive or apologetic. She's here to tell the truth, not perform. Council head Amara, a silver-haired alpha with sharp eyes, calls the session to order. This tribunal addresses complaints filed by Alpha King Caden Blackthorn regarding interference with pack bonds and endangerment of minors. Amara's gaze lands on Zaylin. "How do you answer these charges?" Zaylin stands. Her voice doesn't shake. "Not guilty." Murmurs ripple through the gallery. Caden's attorney rises, a polished beta named Sterling. "The evidence speaks otherwise. Ms. Cross removed Alpha Blackthorn's children from his custody without permission, established an unsanctioned settlement, and actively recruited Omegas away from their rightful packs." "I didn't recruit anyone," Zaylin says evenly. "They came seeking safety." "Safety from what?" Sterling's tone sharpens. "Alpha Blackthorn provided housing, resources, purpose. You repaid his generosity with theft. The twins aren't property to be stolen. They're heirs to a pack. Their place is with their father. Their place is where they're safe." Zaylin gestures to where Malachi holds the twins. "Ask them who they call Mum." Sterling's jaw tightens. "Children can be confused. They're not confused." Zaylin's voice stays level. "They're clear. The question is whether this council respects their clarity or dismisses it. Amara raises a hand, silencing Sterling. Ms. Cross, explain why you left Moonridge. This is it, the moment Davina prepared her for. Zaylin takes a breath. Because Alpha Blackthorn used calm manipulation to erase my autonomy, he questioned my memory until I stopped trusting myself. He isolated me under the guise of protection. He made me doubt my worth while calling it guidance. That's a serious accusation, Counselor Thorne says, his voice skeptical. Do you have evidence? I have testimony from multiple Omegas who experienced the same pattern, from Mira Blackthorn's journal, which details identical tactics, from Elder Malachi Rook, who witnessed it firsthand. Sterling stands again. Hearsay and emotion. Where's the proof? The proof is in the pattern, Davina interjects. 5 settlements in this region have reported similar complaints about Alpha Blackthorn's treatment of Omegas. The proof is in the fact that 19 wolves have sought sanctuary from his pack in 6 months. The proof is that his own children respond to Ms. Cross with trust and to him with distress. Or she's poisoned them against me, Caden says quietly, his first words. He stands, his presence commanding the room. I loved Mira. I've provided for my children. I gave Zaylin purpose when she had none. This isn't about abuse. It's about an Omega who couldn't handle responsibility and convinced herself I was the problem. The room holds its breath. Zaylin meets his gaze across the chamber. She sees the same calm control that once made her doubt herself. It doesn't work anymore. You're doing it right now, she says softly, reframing my experience as my failure, suggesting I'm too weak to handle what you call responsibility, but what was actually control, making yourself sound reasonable while painting me as emotional. I am being reasonable, Caden says. No, you're being calm. There's a difference. Zaylin turns to the council. This is what manipulation looks like when it's polite, when it never raises its voice, when it frames erasure as care. Counselor Amara leans forward. What do you want, Miss Cross? The question catches her off guard. She expected to defend, not to ask. I want Omega autonomy recognized as a right, not a privilege granted by alphas. I want psychological manipulation treated as seriously as physical abuse. I want children's attachment bonds respected, not dismissed because they're inconvenient to power. That's idealistic, Thorne scoffs. That's basic dignity, Rochelle calls from the gallery. Amara's gaze shifts to her. You are? Rochelle Chen, Omega, widow, resident of Ms. Cross's settlement by choice. Rochelle stands, her voice steady. I've lived under traditional pack structure for 43 years. I've experienced both good alphas and harmful ones. Ms. Cross isn't perfect, but she's the first leader who's asked me what I need instead of telling me what I should want. Another Omega stands. Then another. One by one, wolves from the gallery rise, not just from Zaylin's settlement, but from other packs, other territories. I stayed silent for 12 years, one says. I was told I was lucky, another adds. I didn't have words for what was happening until I heard Ms. Cross's story. The council shifts uncomfortably. This isn't procedure. This is groundswell. Amara calls for order, but the voices continue. Not loud, not aggressive, just truthful. And truth, once spoken, can't be unheard. Caden's composure finally cracks. This is theater, orchestrated to undermine legitimate authority. No, Zaylin says quietly. This is what happens when people stop being afraid of naming what's always been there. The tribunal goes silent. Amara confers with the other counselors in hushed tones. Minutes stretch into eternity. Finally, she speaks. This council cannot rule on matters of psychological harm without proper investigation. We're tabling the custody complaint pending a full review of Alpha Blackthorn's governance practices. In the meantime, the twins remain with Ms. Cross. Not victory, not vindication, but not defeat. Caden's expression turns to stone. Zaylin's knees nearly buckle with relief. As the chamber empties, Davina grips her shoulder. You did it. We did it, Zaylin corrects, looking at the Omegas who stood with her. But she knows this isn't over. It's just beginning. 3 months after the tribunal, Zaylin's settlement has a name, Haven Ridge. Not because she chose it, because the wolves living there did, through actual vote. The population has grown to 47, not all omegas, some betas, a few alphas who disagreed with traditionalist structures, people seeking something different. What they're building doesn't have a manual. Some days that's terrifying, other days it's liberating. Zaylin sits in the newly built community hall, moderating a dispute between two residents about shared resources. Neither appeals to her authority. They present their cases, the community asks questions, and eventually a compromise emerges. No one commands, no one submits. It's messy. It takes longer than autocracy, but it's theirs. After the meeting, Malachi finds her on the porch, watching the twins play in the fenced garden. Nyari toddles after a butterfly, her laughter bright. Kaizen sits in the dirt, methodically sorting rocks by size. They're happy, Malachi observes. They are. Zaylin's chest swells. Sometimes I still can't believe we made it here. You made it here. They're just benefiting from your courage. Zaylin shakes her head. It wasn't courage. It was just one decision at a time, each one terrifying. That's what courage is. Malachi settles into the chair beside her. Not the absence of fear, just the refusal to let it be the only voice. A runner approaches, young, breathless. Message from the council. Zaylin's stomach tightens, but she accepts the letter calmly. It's from Amara. The investigation into Moonridge Pact governance is ongoing. However, the council has voted to recognize Haven Ridge as a sanctioned autonomous settlement. You'll receive the same protections and responsibilities as any established pack. Zaylin reads it twice, 3 times. Official recognition, not grudging tolerance, actual legitimacy. What is it? Malachi asks. She hands him the letter, unable to speak. His face breaks into a rare, full smile. Well then. That evening, Haven Ridge celebrates, not with ceremony or formality, but with shared food and easy laughter. The twins sit in Zaylin's lap, Nyari playing with her hair, while Kaizen signs more for another piece of bread. Tamara tells a story about her first week here, how she tried to ask permission to use the bathroom and Simone just stared at her in confusion. Marcus demonstrates his terrible singing voice, making the children shriek with giggles. Rochelle shares wisdom from her years, gentle and unforced. It's not perfect. There are still disagreements, still growing pains, still moments of doubt. But it's real. And real is better than the performance of perfection that requires silence. Later, after the twins are asleep and the settlement quiets, Zaylin walks the perimeter alone. The moon hangs full and bright. The forest sounds alive with night creatures. She thinks about Mira sometimes, wonders if the other woman would be proud or horrified by what her children's caretaker became. She thinks about Caden, too. The investigation hasn't concluded, but rumors suggest other Omegas from Moonridge have come forward. Patterns documented. Harm named. He sent one more letter after the tribunal, brief and bitter. You've destroyed everything I built. Zaylin never responded, because she didn't destroy anything. She just stopped pretending the foundation was solid when it was built on compliance. Footsteps approach. Davina joins her at the fence. Can't sleep? Too much to think about. Zaylin glances at the Alpha beside her. Thank you. For everything. You did the work. I just held space for it. That's not a small thing. Davina's smile is quiet. No, it's not. They stand in comfortable silence, watching the settlement they've helped build. What happens now? Zaylin asks. Now? Davina considers. Now you keep doing what you're doing, making space for people to choose themselves, showing that leadership doesn't require domination. And if more people come? Then we build bigger. Davina's voice carries certainty. The council's recognition means other settlements can follow your model. You're not alone in this anymore. The thought should be comforting. Instead, it's heavy, because every person who arrives brings their own trauma, their own needs, their own journey. And Zaylin doesn't have all the answers. I'm going to make mistakes, she says quietly. Yes, Davina agrees. You will. The difference between you and Caden is you'll admit them. What if that's not enough? Then you adjust. You ask for help. You stay accountable. Davina turns to face her. You're not trying to be perfect, Zaylin. You're trying to be honest. There's power in that. Back in the cottage, Zaylin checks on the twins one last time before bed. Nyari's curled into a ball, her thumb in her mouth. Kyson sprawls across his side of the crib, taking up all available space. They're growing so fast. Soon they'll ask questions about their father, about why they live here instead of there, about why some wolves have different rules than others. Zaylin doesn't know yet how she'll answer, but she knows she won't lie. She'll tell them the truth, that sometimes the people who should protect you hurt you instead. That recognizing harm isn't betrayal. That choosing yourself is hard and necessary and worth it. She'll tell them their father wasn't evil, but he was harmful. That she forgave him by walking away, not by returning. She'll teach them that love doesn't require shrinking, that strength includes gentleness, that leadership serves, not commands. And when they're old enough, she'll let them choose their own relationship with Caden, because agency is the gift she can give them that she never received. Zaylin climbs into her own bed, exhaustion finally settling into her bones. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, more people seeking haven, more systems to build, more mistakes to navigate, but tonight she sleeps in a home she chose, surrounded by people who chose her back, raising children who know, bone deep, what safety actually feels like. And that quiet, imperfect reality, is the revolution. Not the dramatic kind that storms castles, the persistent kind that person by person teaches wolves they deserve better. That boundaries aren't cruelty, that walking away is sometimes the most loving thing you can do, that you don't need permission to choose yourself, you just need courage, one terrifying decision at a time, until the decisions become less terrifying, until the life you're building feels less like escape and more like home, until the right souls find their way to you. Not because you commanded them, but because you showed them it was possible. And somewhere, in a pack that's learning to value truth over tradition, other Omegas are watching, waiting, gathering their own courage, ready to make their own terrifying choices. Because Zaylin Cross didn't just save herself and 2 babies, she proved it could be done. And proof, once seen, can't be unseen. The revolution isn't coming. It's already here, quiet, persistent, unstoppable, one choice at a time.